So the first core principle of profit first that shows that is working with our behavior rather than against it is the concept of small plates. So recall that in profit first, instead of having one serving bowl of money, we actually divide our money into smaller plates, all that have a particular purpose. So what's the philosophy behind this? Why does this work? Well, it works because of something called Parkinson's law. And Parkinson's law is the idea that the more you have of something, the more you consume. So a good example of this is toothpaste. So say you wake up in the morning, you're standing at the bathroom sink ready to brush your teeth, and you pull out this fresh new tube of toothpaste. And there's all kinds of toothpaste in there, so you're not worried about the amount you're putting on your toothbrush. So you're just slopping that on there, right? And you got this big glop of toothpaste on there, and you run it under the water, and you're thinking, well, that's a lot of toothpaste. I'm just going to turn it a little bit with the hopes that top half of it will kind of slide off, and then you'll have some, the amount left that you actually really wanted on there in the first place. What happens is a whole glop of toothpaste just slops off into the sink, and you're like, dang it. What do? You don't have to worry because you have a lot of toothpaste left. So you pull that toothpaste tube out, you put it on your toothbrush again, maybe a little bit more conservatively this time, and you brush your teeth and you're on your way, right? Well, as the days go along, that toothpaste supply is slowly diminishing. And towards the end, you start to think every morning, you're like, man, I really need to put toothpaste on the list, brush your teeth, and you're thinking, I'll remember, right? I just have to go from my room to the kitchen, and I'll remember to put it on that list. The problem is that between the time you get done with brushing your teeth and walk to the kitchen, you've been interrupted by like 3 kids. So you get to the kitchen, and you're like, now what was I supposed to do that? What was I supposed to put on that list? I'm like, oh, okay, it's no big deal. The next day you wake up, and you're like, really should have put that on the list, right? Oh, don't worry, I'll remember. And you go through the whole thing all over again. Well, what happens is when you start to get to the end of that toothpaste roll, you start to become very frugal about how much toothpaste you need. Whereas at the beginning, you're just kind of slopping it on there. Towards the end, you're like, oh, I can really do with this tiny little drop of toothpaste. That'll be fine. And then you start to get really innovative about how you're going to get that toothpaste out of there. For me, I like to start from the back and kind of roll it up to get, as much out of there as you can. So what does this have to do with money? Well, so in the traditional way of bank balance accounting, you're looking at this big serving bowl of money, and you have this illusion that you've got all kinds of money there, right? So an expense comes in, you're like, oh, no big deal, I can afford that. Thinking, oh, a new office building with rent, I can afford that. So you start to, you're not worried about the money that's available, much like that fresh tube of toothpaste, right? I got all kinds of money I can pay stuff with. Well, what happens is as that money starts to diminish, you start to become pretty, again, like the tube of toothpaste, you start to become very, very frugal and innovative with what you're going to do with that money. Well, what Profit First does is it starts with that illusion of you not having as much money available for your expenses. By putting the money in these things, in these places first, you've now intentionally made less money available for expenses. And again, like the tube of toothpaste, what happens is when you have less money available for expenses, you start to become very frugal about what you're going to spend them on. And you start to become very innovative and creative about how you can get things done with less. Which then, by limiting our expenses, again, the purpose of that is that we're trying to increase our profits. We're trying to put the focus back on profits and make it so expenses are the leftovers. So this is the idea of the small plates concept with Profit First.